What if you at some point say, oh my God, guys, you were fantastic. You guys were awesome today. Thank you so much for making my job easy. Do you know what? To say thank you, a gift certificate to come to the studio and have your own portrait experience. I'd love to do that for you. Just pop your name here and then it's up to them. And I've had a lot of my clients do this. And on average, they get 3 bookings per wedding when they do this.
Hey, and welcome to the Difference Maker Revolution podcast. And we're going to have a fun one today. We're going to talk about weddings.
Yay!
Can you believe that, Jonathan? We're talking about weddings.
Are you getting married again, Steve?
I think 3 is enough, Jono. What do you reckon? Should we go for number 4?
I'd say 3 is the perfect number, Steve.
3 is the perfect number. Number 3, yes. Well, as you know, my belief is that weddings are a huge marketing tool. It's a big day and there are so many opportunities that weddings bring. And if we think about weddings as a huge opportunity to build our portrait business as well as our wedding business, I know a lot of photographers combine weddings with portraits and are looking for ways to build their portrait business. Obviously, a portrait takes a lot less time than a wedding. And so these are the fillers. These are those things that people can do between weddings. If you're in a city or country that has a wedding season, it means you can fill the calendar year up in your non-wedding season time and still get cash flow. I know, Ronan, you're a big fan of cash flow and creating cash flow because cash flow is king, right?
Absolutely. And Steve, I see this a lot. I see a lot of photographers who say, well, I'm a wedding photographer and I want to get out of weddings and just do portraits, or I'm a portrait photographer, so I don't do weddings. So there seems to be this sort of divide in a lot of mindsets of photographers that,
well,
I should be either or either.
In my head, a wedding is, and I had this discussion the other day. I was talking to a member and she was saying, I don't do families. I don't like families, but I do 5 weddings a year. And I said, but if you're doing weddings, like, isn't that really photographing families? And she goes, oh yeah, but no, I don't do that for portraits. And she didn't see that it was similar. But I think from a wedding perspective, a wedding is nothing more than a really, 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 really long portrait session. All of the things that we do in a portrait session happen for a wedding. We just have this captive audience that we are working with for a lot longer. There's a lot more preparation time. And a lot more work. But essentially, in my head, it's a huge marketing opportunity as well as not a lot of difference when it comes to, what we're doing and how we interact with people, really.
So you know what I love about this idea, Steve, that we're going to deep dive into, is that often when we're marketing, often it's money out, right? But what you're effectively saying here is you can get paid to do your marketing.
We're being paid to market, which is awesome. But I think that's the problem because we haven't paid for it and we are being paid. A lot of people don't see the opportunities or act on the opportunities. And we have a lot of our members who are photographing weddings and are combining weddings, or they're saying they want to, build more portraits. It's too dangerous to stop what you're doing and just take on something new. So you would slow one down and grow the other. Or you can grow your portrait business while you're doing weddings because there's usually downtime during the week or because of seasonality. So lots of scope. And I think that the easiest and most simplest thing to do is send every one of your weddings an anniversary card, and call them. And, you know, you hear a lot of wedding photographers talk about the fact, oh, you know, we get along so well. We go out for dinner. We're almost friends. And so when you say, oh my God, that's fantastic. When when you called them for their anniversary, you know, weren't they excited to hear from you? And oh no, we don't do that. I'm thinking, well, you were their wedding photographer. Why wouldn't you call them? Why wouldn't you know? Why wouldn't you want to know what their biggest highlights were in the first year that they got married? I asked a groom this because I went to a PPA shoot, and they had a couple there, a bride that were actually a couple. They got married a year before, and it happened that it was their anniversary the day before this shoot went, and he was just standing there because they were photographing the bride. And I asked him, "Okay, so you're actually a couple?" He said, "Yeah." He goes, "It's our anniversary." I said, "Oh my God, that's fantastic. So what have your highlights been, you know, since your wedding day?" And he said to me, "Do you know what? I thought I loved my wife the day I married her, but over this year, I know why I love her. And I have so much more love for this woman than I did. And I'm almost ashamed to say it, but I really thought I loved her on our wedding day. But what he was able to talk about, he was pretty much crying as the bride was being, as she was being photographed. And I just asked him about, you know, what he sees in her now and what has he grown to love about her now. And he was in tears. Nobody saw him because everybody was focused on what was happening with the bride and the camera and stuff.
I'm sure when they called to call him in, they were gone, that Steve Saprino fella. We have to.
Well, they then took off and took the bride outside because they wanted to do some natural light stuff outside. And we were sort of left in the room by ourselves. They didn't even notice he didn't follow them. But it was an incredible conversation. And I said, "Oh my God, that's fantastic. So, if we were to capture this part of her, you know, where would you love to display this?" And, you know, I pretty much quoted him $3,000 for a piece of wall art, and he was in tears. He loved it. He thought it would be amazing to do. I said, just by a matter of interest, what did you have you got your wedding album yet? You know, what did you buy, when you had your wedding photos? And he goes, "Oh my God, no, we didn't buy anything." He said, we were given all the files. He said, we contacted all our friends and printed photos that our friends took on their phones because they know us. Like, the photographer was great and we got him because we had him, and there's some pretty cool photos there, but they don't mean anything to us. It's the ones that my friends took that we've got huge photos on the wall, which were great, but we've never had an album printed or anything. We just got the files. And that one conversation made me realize that the opportunity for us to get to know our clients, there's usually a year or two. I know you've got 2 daughters getting married. How much time is there between the time that your daughter booked their photographer or knew that they were getting married? No, book their photographer, because there's a time from the time that they book the photographer to the time that they get married. How much time is there? Was it a last minute thing, Ronan, or how much time was there between each of the girls booking their photographer and the wedding?
Probably a year, Steve. But something you said to me was, I think it may have been the time you did the discovery call with me about the weddings. And I remember you saying to me, I know this is Freya's wedding or this is Aaron's wedding. I can't remember which of the 2 daughters it was.
We were talking about Freya.
Was it Freya? And you said, but it's not just Freya's wedding, is it, Ronan? You know? And that at the time just said to me, no, you're right. You know, she is the main, person, but we have an investment emotionally in the wedding as well. It's our daughter who's getting married. Susan's and my daughter.
Yeah.
But I suspect, Steve, right? Because obviously I don't hear every wedding photographer and how they interact with their clients, but I suspect that wedding photographers don't think that way.
Well, they should, because the wedding affects more than one person. And I think there's this blanket, the bride's my client, the groom's my client, but really the bride's my focus. And they forget that this emotionally affects so many more people. And when the bride and groom book you a year or two in advance, if the wedding, I can't bring my arms out, let's say, is 100 points of what has to happen, or the checklist is like 100 things that have to happen, at the time that they book you, they're probably on number 5 or 6. And so if I was photographing, Freya's wedding, I'd be wanting to almost have a monthly catch up on, okay, Ronan, tell me what's happening, or talk to Freya. What's been organized now? Who's coming now? Because, it's an overseas wedding. Who important's going to be there? Knowing that you're, this is an emotional investment for you and for Susan, and for Scott's parents. I'm photographing for you too. I need to see Freya through your eyes, and I'm not just photographing a dress. I'm photographing your daughter that day, and I'm photographing. I need to talk to Scott and see what he loves about her, to be able to photograph the person inside the dress. But I need to also understand who she is as a daughter to you, and who she is as a daughter to Susan. And so a lot of the people that I train that do this are selling albums to the parents. Now, after our discovery call, you mentioned that you would love to put up a wall portrait in Freya's room because she often comes and stays. Is that still something that's real for you?
Yeah, I see it every day, Steve. I see the void because there's nothing there yet.
So we've created a void and created a longing for that.
Yes.
And I think it's an opportunity that a lot of wedding photographers don't see, that the parents can be emotionally invested. And it's not every single person, but it's the majority. And when you think about it, many families, a couple, there might be 3 or 4 parents involved, because there's a lot of blended families these days. And so a lot of the people we're training are selling multiple albums per wedding, because they're now not ignoring the generation that believes in photography the most. Right? Yeah. And when we give the parents that experience and include them, we move up the food chain for the wedding. Right? And so we're not just a vendor, we're not just a cost anymore, we're giving them an incredible experience.
Yeah.
Right? And then from that conversation that we had, Ronan, it's so easy for me to book a family session a year before the wedding.
We're still only talking about the bride, the groom, the parents of the bride and groom. We haven't even talked about bridesmaids or brothers or sisters or aunts or uncles or...
Well, often the bridesmaids, or especially the maid of honor, is somebody that is so important to the bride. And there'll be somebody that's important to the groom. What if we got to know them before the wedding? So it makes the wedding day so much easier, because you've already built a rapport, you get to understand them, you get to know why this person is their best friend. Who is she as a best friend? And of course, we've booked portrait sessions from those conversations too. And so like a wedding should give us, on average, between 4 and 6. Let's say 4. Every wedding should give you 4 portrait sessions minimum.
Now, these portrait sessions are an addition, Steve, to what we might do at the wedding for the father.
Well, they're all done well before the wedding has even.
Okay.
Most of them are done well before the wedding's even happened.
Okay.
So, you would be calling to find out about the bride, what Scott loves about Freya, who is she, what does he love about her, why is this the woman he wants to spend the rest of his life with? And we begin that conversation. And so we then create a forever session for them where we are creating artwork that represents the core of why they are together. Those things that mean the world to them, and that is going to set the standard of who they're going to be moving on forever. Because lots of couples get lost, lots of couples forget, and for them to have something that is going to remind them of why this person means the world to them, it's important. And so that forever session is your first one, and then obviously there's the family sessions. But then if you think about how many weddings most photographers have photographed over the years, how many anniversaries are there per year that are building up every year? Now, the first anniversary, which we were talking to with the groom at the PPA thing, that was his first wedding anniversary. Now, traditionally, the first anniversary gift traditionally is, come on, Ronan, think back. Paper. That's what we sell. We sell paper, and it's the perfect gift to give each other, because what else are you going to get that's made out of paper that has any value as a gift? And so it's perfect. So reminding them of that, and calling them and finding out what's happening. Now, I know I get a lot of people say, oh, but what if they're divorced? Is that everyone?
Yeah, that's an excuse not to make.
I spoke to Paul, and he said in all the years he's photographed, and I think it's been 15 years or something, he's only had 3 couples divorce. So he thinks he gives them the kiss of life in that his divorce rate is only 0.003. I think he worked it out 3% or something like that. So he was very proud of himself.
Well, you know what Susan's paper gift was to me, Steve, on our first anniversary? I bought all this wallpaper, Ronan. Get working.
Well, I think a photographic experience would be much more memorable than licking wallpaper and sticking it to the wall, Ronan, don't you think?
I'm joking, of course. Susan wouldn't trust me with wallpaper. She doesn't trust me with a hammer in the house, never mind hanging wallpaper.
She's removed all of that.
He would have totally bought the treasure box as well over.
He totally would.
Of course.
So I think that there's lots and lots of opportunity for wedding photographers if they saw this gift that they're being given, in that they're being paid to market. So I know that a lot of people these days are living together. Scott and Freya are living together, and I'm going to be a guest. It's hard to know what to buy. Now, we could contribute to their honeymoon, but a lot of people have set up gift registries for their wedding albums. And so it's possible for people to buy a page or a double page spread or contribute to the wedding album as a wedding gift. And
that's something, I think that's ingenious, Steve. But I haven't been at loads and loads of weddings, right? But I've been at probably 10 weddings. I've never seen that offered. And what a great idea for a wedding photographer to make that available or even suggest it to the bride and groom.
Well, there's software designed for it. And as part of the gift registry, it's easy for people, to buy a double page spread or 5 spreads for the album. And what that gives us is their data. And you could word up the bride and let them know that, somebody that is going to gift you a double page spread or whatever it is, and if they spend so much, then, we can reward them as well. And often we're getting 5 or 6 bookings from the registrar. Now, selling the pages is great because in the mind of the bride and the groom, what's happening? They're already knowing that they're building a wedding album. They already know that they're going to get more than the minimum. And so we're training them to want more.
And as the photographer who's organising this, again, you're getting paid to market.
Yeah. And I think it's changing your language. When you're presenting an album, a lot of people will say, oh, here's my package and it comes with 20 pages. The photographers that change their language and say, here's my package, this comes with your first 20 pages. Most people want more, get a different result, right? Another thing that we can do to market and sell more is at the end of it, once, as an add-on, once they've come in and designed, a lot of people that I've trained in weddings are saying, okay, now let's create a highlights box for you. Let's create a treasure box which have the highlights. And they're selling a portrait box which has 15, 20, 30 of the key photos that the couple love. Parents are buying this because it's something that isn't going to take up a lot of room. That they generally will buy a wall portrait as well. But they love the treasure boxes too because sometimes they want to give one to grandparents or some to grandparents as well.
Well, even I, Steve, I know because we were together on New Year's Eve with Scott's parents. They were in our home with his sister and his brother, and they said to me, Steve, that, they want something special for them because there's no way they want a photo of Jonathan in their version of their wedding album, So I said, you don't need a wedding album. You need these highlights boxes. Let me show you one. And you can have the photos that mean something to you. And you don't have to look at Jonathan.
Yes. So, printing a duplicate album, why wouldn't we sit with the parents and let them spend $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 with us? And by the time you do buy a piece of wall art, a treasure box, maybe a second piece of wall art, why not work with a generation that absolutely believes in printed product? Because what's going to happen is the flow-on effect on them adding to the original album also happens in that you've built that rapport. They can see, because you've understood what each child means to each parent, you're photographing more meaningfully. You then can describe each page more meaningfully. And we're seeing double albums being created for a lot of brides and grooms. Obviously not everyone, but a lot.
So Jonathan, you as a marketing guru must be going, this is amazing. And we also have, you're aware of a tool that we have that can actually help keep track of all of this amazing opportunity from a wedding to get more business.
Yes, Ronan, I believe that you were talking about the fully booked engine, right?
Absolutely.
So the amazing news is that when you become a member of the Inner Circle, you will also have access to the fully booked engine, which is going to help you to, keep these opportunities organized and help make you and your business more efficient when, searching for these opportunities for your additional portrait experiences.
You wouldn't want to be the person that forgot the bride and groom's anniversary, would you?
Imagine you did that.
You wouldn't want to be the one vendor or the one person, that was actually there photographing their wedding, forgetting the fact that it's now been a year and not send them a card and not call them to congratulate them and build on that relationship that you've already built. And the engine's gonna remind you and make all that happen, right?
Just don't send them flowers. That's not your job.
Depends on the rapport you've built.
You could get somebody in real trouble. Maybe you should remind the groom a couple of days beforehand. Don't forget your wedding anniversary is in a few days.
we tend to send it a week before, so hopefully, that's the trigger that's going to remind them.
That'd be the value for me.
But you'd be amazed how many of your clients, when you do send that card and write something heartfelt, they'll call you. And often those people that maybe haven't bought an album are ready to, or, want some photos, and you can build a treasure box for them. And often they're coming in for that extra shoot. So it's about building that. And so when you think about, if you did put your mind to it, the average wedding has how many groomsmen and bridesmaids these days?
I think Aaron has 2 bridesmaids and obviously 2. What are those fellas called?
Groomsmen.
Groomsmen. That's that.
Groomsmen. Yeah.
And then
fellas.
Freya has 3 bridesmaids.
Okay, so I know in Australia the average is, I think, 3 to 4.
Right.
Are all of those people groomsmen, the fellas, and the and the bridesmaids, are they all couples?
No, they're all separate. They're not related to each other.
So what you're saying is 2 becomes 4, 3 becomes 6. 6 opportunities. And even if you're at the wedding and you haven't contacted them, and you make an effort to get along even more and have more fun with them as their photographer for the day, what if you pull, at some point say, oh my God, guys, you were fantastic. And you don't want to leave it too late in the day because everybody's drinking. So you want to sort of get it done sort of fairly early-ish and say, you guys were awesome today. Thank you so much for making my job easy. Do you know what? To say thank you, if you love a gift certificate to come to the studio and have your own portrait experience, I'd love to do that for you. Just pop your name here, and then it's up to them. And I've had a lot of my clients do this, and on average, they get 3 bookings per wedding when they do this, because they've built a rapport. They've spent the day with them. And in many cases, they've called and built a rapport with them beforehand too. But if you think about every wedding that you photographed for the year or the last 2 or 3 years, how many opportunities are there to book extra people?
And I know in Freya's wedding and Aaron's wedding, I don't believe any of their bridesmaids are married yet. They're in relationships, but they're not married yet. So
you've got to keep that relationship going. So why would we not call and build that relationship, get that on our database? Now, if we were to speak to Freya and say, look, Freya, you so excited. In order for this day to be amazing, I need to get to know the bridesmaids and the groomsmen. Have you decided who they are? Can you tell me why you've chosen these people? And obviously you want to work with the ones that are more she's emotionally attached to. And try to include everybody, but it gives you a reason to call people. And I'm going to steal that phrase of yours, Ronan, earn the conversation, right? So then that way we can then find out what's special. Like I've rung a best man. He goes, oh, we're organizing. It's been my job to organize a few things. And on the wedding day, it's a sit down meal, but they've got a carvery happening. And so I've come up with this game where everybody's got to earn the right at the carvery in what order they're going to go. And so he was explaining this all to me. And so I had to make sure that we could cover this. He was talking about how he's going to make, for them to nominate somebody at the table. And so, normally the burly guys get up, and The first task was to convince somebody to give you their heels and get back onto the stage as fast as you can. And the first person back, their table went up to the carvery. And then he just had all these tasks. It was just fun, hilarious fun. And we just get to know him. And through that, we booked his wedding and before that, a portrait session with the best man's fiance. And so it's just taking an interest in people. Half the time, they're asking us if we would do it for them. We don't even have to suggest it. It just comes out from the conversation that we're having.
Opportunity, 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 opportunity. Jonathan, tell all our listeners about the amazing opportunity where they can learn more.
Yes, so when you're ready to maximize the opportunity you have and take your business to a new level where you deliver an elevated experience for your wedding and portrait clients, then all you need to do is click the link below, join the inner circle, because this is where the magic happens, and that's what's going to help you to elevate you and your business and your clients' experience. So we'll see you on the inside.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.